Today on What's Next.
I see so many friends which retired early and they always bored. I need to fill my hours with something creative.
When you care for others, sometimes you kind of take the wheels off and you're not really concentrating on your own health.
The free fall, flying through the air and looking around, it's a feeling you just cannot describe.
Hello and welcome to What's Next. I'm Mark Middleton, and as we learn every week on this program, there's always the opportunity for a what's next in all of our lives. It's never too late and we are not too old. Passion and purpose really are the fuel that keep us going, and neither has an expiration date. Of course, our ageist culture tells us something entirely different, that we're supposed to be gradually withdrawing, that we're supposed to be retiring in the way that our parents and grandparents did because we might get hurt, because we're not as smart, as creative, or as interesting as we used to be, because our value has been depreciated. The truth is just the opposite. And joining me today are a few folks who know just how much a bunch of BS that actually is. These folks are just hitting their stride. They have no plans to retire. Welcome Amy Sweezy, Bill Schaefer, and Cecily Wilson. And guys, what do you say we go around the horn very quickly? When you think about your 80-year-old self, what's one thing that you hope you're going to be doing? Amy?
Well, I hope that I'm still here, and I hope that I'm doing the same things I'm doing now, maybe a little bit slower, but I plan to just continue living my best life with my kids, who at that point will be in their 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
At 80, I'm going to be playing keyboards in a rock band, kicking out a solo to an REO Speedwagon song for an adoring audience of 80-year-olds.
I can see it. I can absolutely see it. And
It's coming.
It's coming, right? I am going to be still wearing my stilettos, dancing, and looking absolutely fabulous, and hopefully still here, just like Amy said.
You know, I don't know if you guys have reached the age, but I certainly have, where people start to ask, when are you going to retire? And in some professions, they pretty much just show you the door, not because you're unable to keep doing the job and doing it well, just because they want some younger blood. Which brings us to our first story today. It was 10 years ago. The restaurant that Chef George Vogelbacher worked for and helped launch invited him not to return from a planned vacation. He was 73 years old at the time, and retirement did not suit him. And luckily for George and for diners in Central Florida, he found a new opportunity to keep doing what he has always done the best. Executive Chef George Vogelbacher begins each day at about 6:45 in the morning, preparing from scratch the classic sauces for that night's service at Maxine's on Shine.
Our customers will come here and literally say to us, best lasagna they've ever had. Best gravy they've ever had, because they're real sauces. He spends 3 to 5 hours making these sauces.
Maxine's is a small neighborhood restaurant with a growing international reputation after being recommended by Michelin as one of the best restaurants in Orlando's rapidly growing culinary culture.
Well, I think we are a mixture of Americana restaurant, a modern American cuisine with a little bit Italian influence, a little bit French, and we follow also some new trends, Put that back on fire.
Vogelbacher is 82 and among a growing number of octogenarian chefs.
I feel fulfilled because I see so many friends which retired early and they always bored. They don't seem very happy doing nothing. You can only play that much golf. I need to fill my hours with something creative, and cooking been my passion since I was a kid.
His first job was apprentice pastry chef at his father's bakery in Switzerland. As a young man, he cooked on cruise ships for 6 years, visiting over 60 countries, which led to a job at the Watergate Hotel in Washington, D.C. When you were in D.C., you never had a chance to go to the White House, did you?
Oh, yeah. I have pictures from the White House. I put the wedding cake together for Lyndon Johnson's daughter's wedding. And then in '68, Washington was a mess. with the Martin Luther King's riot and then the anti-war demonstration. So I packed up my little Mustang and drove to Winter Park.
He opened a small bakery in Orlando before creating Le Cordon Bleu, a fine dining landmark in Central Florida for 30 years. The restaurant was destroyed by fire in 1996, and Vogelbacher opened several more successful restaurants before briefly retiring.
I feel the best when I work. When I lay down at home or when I watch TV, and then everything starts hurting. But I never hurt when I worked. None of my joints hurt me when I work. Isn't that strange?
Kurt Earhart, Maxine's husband and partner, was looking for a new executive chef in 2014, and George was back in the business. Chef George admits that slowing down at some point sounds appealing, but for now, there's only one thing that will make him hang up his apron for good.
They want to prohibit gas stoves in restaurants. Then I really quit. I cannot cook with electric stove.
Until then, you'll find him in the kitchen at Maxine's, putting in the time and the effort required to help create a memorable experience for guests. And the recipe for that is something else he and Maxine will openly share.
Well, I learned that what my father told me was true. Hard work ain't gonna kill you. Simple as that. You gotta show up, you gotta do the job. So what if it takes several hours to do, and you just do it? There's nothing wrong with working hard, and George teaches us that every day.
Chef George Vogelbacher has cooked for presidents, celebrities, world leaders, and everyday people. And he has two simple secrets to share.
Treat the people like you want to be treated, and respect everybody. Be nice, even to your dishwasher.
And of course,
you have to have a decent despot. You need to try your food. Today all the chefs are so skinny because they never try their own food.
as creative as ever, and most importantly, his food tastes as good as it always has. One of the reasons why Maxine's on Shine is regularly voted one of Orlando's best restaurants. And guys, what about you? What stood out to you the most about Chef George?
I think the thing I like most about him is he's like, what's the fuss? What's the big deal? And that's where we need to get, where whether a guy's 83 or 23, it's not that big a deal. If he can do the job and he loves the job and he does it well, more power to George.
Yeah, and Bill, that's what he said in that story. He said, cooking is my passion. So he's just continuing doing what he loves to do. Doesn't matter how old he is. He doesn't want to sit around and play golf. He wants to do what he's passionate about.
Yeah, 100%. And I just can't reiterate exactly what you both have said. What's the big deal? I know how to do it. I'm doing it and doing it and doing it well. That's it.
On my 60th birthday, I want to do something bigger, bolder to continue on my journey.
Welcome back to What's Next. I'm Bill Schaefer. What do you do when somebody else's life takes priority over yours? Nancy Walko stopped pretty much everything to be her husband's caregiver, only to find that her health started sliding downhill fast. But when her coworker told her how, as unlikely as it seemed, things began to turn around for her when she entered a run in the Track Shack running series, well, Nancy took a leap of faith and now is taking back control of her life one step at a time.
I've been a caregiver for 5 years, and when you care for others, sometimes you kind of take the wheels off and you're not really concentrating on your own health. So I needed some self-care, and I decided to do this.
She circled the Park Avenue 5K on her calendar and began training, walking, riding her bike, lifting dumbbells, changing her diet, and inspiring everyone around her.
Runners, set!
Lauren, who runs regularly, entered with Nancy so she could encourage her every step of the way. While the world-class athletes race for the glory, It's back in the pack in the sea of inspiration that lives are being changed, diseases being confronted, setbacks being overcome, and healthier, happier futures being created. Every finish line is a victory, and Nancy Walko, in her first race ever, has plenty to celebrate.
I did a 5K in less than an hour, and this is my first race ever, so I'm happy.
And you got to be proud of what she's done.
I'm so proud. I almost teared up because I know that feeling of running your first race or doing something you've never done, and it's scary and it's exciting. And I'm so proud of her because I feel like now she's going to be willing to try other new things and push herself, and that's what it's all about.
I've lost 74 pounds now, so that's amazing, and I'm just on this journey. I'm healthy, I'm energetic, I have more energy than my husband knows what to do with, and I'm enjoying life. I'm going to be 60 years old this year, and so on my 60th birthday, I want to do something bigger, bolder to continue on my journey.
How great is that? And proof that growing bolder sure does get to you, because it is never too late. Her first 5K at almost 60 years of age. And her friend was right. This is just the springboard to what's ahead for Nancy Walko. Mark, you were there at the race. What strikes you about Nancy's story?
You know, Bill, I think is what she said at the very end. I want to do something bigger, bolder to continue my journey. And I think everybody learns eventually that fitness, overall health and well-being is a journey that never ends. It is tough to get started, but we can be inspired by others like Nancy was, but ultimately we got to do it on our own. The great news is, as Nancy is discovering, it gets easier and easier once you are actually on that journey.
In a couple of episodes ago, I remember Bill said something to the effect of, you know, everybody thinks that running is easy if you don't do it. And you're like, they do that because it's easy. And I think that's just a great example from Nancy that, you know, it's not always easy. She did this because she knew she needed to, and not because she thought, oh, that'd be an easy thing to do.
I literally just sat here and realized that the last time that I tried to run a 5K was at 39 years old, and I was training for the Disney Marathon before I had a stroke, and I stopped. Now I realize that I want to do it again. I want to run a 5K, and I want to do it this year. There we go. That's what she inspired me to do, and I just realized, thank you, Nancy. Thank you.
I just love to either run out of the airplane or dive out the airplane.
Welcome back to What's Next. I'm Amy Sweezy. Now, when it comes to skydiving, perhaps you've heard those jokes about the lack of intelligence it takes to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. But tandem skydives are a little bit of a bucket list item for some people. Not me. Mark recently met a woman who is still jumping out of those perfectly good planes solo and has a world record to show for it.
Sweden's Ruth Linnea Ingegard Larsson has become the oldest skydiver ever after a tandem jump at the age of 103 years, 259 days old. She didn't take her first jump until she was 102. The oldest female skydiver who jumps all by herself is Florida's 85-year-old Maria Jagela.
All I had to do is make one solo dive. There was no requisition about maneuvers and stuff like that. All you had to do is jump up by yourself.
Maria didn't have to do anything fancy, but she did, because that's why she loves to jump. It's a feeling of creative freedom that she can't get anywhere else.
The free fall, flying through the air and looking around, it's a feeling you just cannot describe. I just love to either run out of the airplane or dive out the airplane and just either do, hook up with other people or just be by myself, make some turns and back loops and we'll make a star and see all the other smiling faces in free fall.
Maria says she's actually the furthest thing from a daredevil. Other than flying high, she's a homebody who likes to lay low.
I'm just content to lay on the couch and read a book or go swim in the pool a little bit, and that's really it.
Wow. Read a book, swim in a pool. That's what I would be doing instead of jumping out of a plane. Not super excited about heights, so yeah. So Mark, I know that Maria wasn't the only one that was setting records in DeLand that day. Tell us a little bit about the Joes.
Yeah, Amy, this is the world we live in now. I mean, these people are everywhere. I was not even there to do a story on Maria. I just happened to bump into her while I was covering the Joes, which is an acronym for Jumpers Over 80 Society. Most began skydiving back in the 1950s and 60s, and they just never stopped. And that day at Skydive DeLand, 8 Joes all hooked up in a group formation to set a new world record for skydivers over the age of 80. Yeah, it did take them a few tries, but they kept going and going. Finally, they did it. A little bit crazy maybe, but the good kind of crazy, I think. What about you guys, Bill?
Oh, crazy, not at all. Is it crazy to want to feel exhilaration in your life? Is it crazy to want to have adventures, to try something you've never done before? And as you well know, Mark, these people are they're not crazy, and they don't maximize risk. They minimize it. They're prepared, they're meticulous, but all of those people, what they have in common is they've got a sparkle in their eye. They're energetic. They've got a smile from ear to ear. It's like they've stumbled onto a secret that the rest of us just don't quite get. I love it.
Okay.
Cecily doesn't get it.
Cecily, you're running a 5K. You just pledged to do that. You have got to jump out of a plane.
That is what I will not be doing, okay? I promise you. But I commend the Joes for doing what they do and having the courage to jump out of a perfectly good plane. Yeah. Kudos to you, but I'll stay on the ground.
To each their own. You know, here's what I can see. I can see Cecily dancing on social media at the age of 92, which is really an intentional segue to our bold social clip of the week. This is 92-year-old Grandma Droniak, who has become a social media superstar, 8 million followers on TikTok. And this is Grandma Droniak dancing in front of her high school. And if you can't read the little text, here's what it says. I visited my high school that I dropped out of 76 years ago to pay tribute to the popular girls that bullied me to think I'd never be popular. Now I have 6 million followers. She's got 8 million now, and they are all rotting underground. Take that, Mean Girls. Who is laughing now?
Welcome back to What's Next. I'm Cecily Wilson. Are you following Growing Bolder on all our social media platforms? I hope so. We've got great content, including inspiring memes like this one. I've reached the age of why the hell not? Amen to that. We also want to hear from you. We want your answers to questions like this one. What strategies do you use to stay open to new experiences and opportunities as you age? Now, I know for me, I follow my heart. If I want to do it, I do it. I'm going to figure out a way to make it happen, and nothing is going to get in my way. And many of the guys know here that I've actually started flying. I'm a flight attendant. Why the hell not? I get to fly for free now and to go to places I want to go. Guys, okay, what about you, Amy? What about you?
Yeah, well, and it is important to go after opportunities because you want to. However, I also think it's important to not say no to an opportunity just because it's not maybe exactly what you want. When I left my full-time TV weather job, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So I just started saying yes to a whole bunch of different things until I could kind of figure out, my niche or my niche, depending on how you say that. And, so don't say no to an opportunity just because it doesn't totally line up with what you think you might want to do.
It's exactly where I was going, Amy. Our colleague Wendy Chioji, who you mentioned earlier, and Mark Middleton is a big proponent of just say yes. We're kind of wired to at first, we're cautious. We'll say no to opportunity. Try to convince yourself more times than not to say yes. And Cecily, if you're a flight attendant, you're right by that door. Jump out with the parachute on. Come on. You'll love it.
Why the hell not? My strategy is pretty simple, folks, and it involves all three of you. My strategy is just this. Come to work each and every day, because when you get here, it's harder to decide what not to do than it is to decide what to do. I think this is the moral of the story, folks. Once you open yourself up to possibility, the world gets a lot bigger for you really, really quickly. You can become like Nancy Walko, who said, I want to do something bigger, bolder to continue my journey. And that's the point. Life is a journey that never ends until it ends. Sure, it's going to change. There's going to be roadblocks. There's going to be detours. But there are also these super highways and beautiful scenic drives along the way. And if you're open to it, it's a never-ending journey of discovery in which more is possible. Not only is it possible, it's essential. We all need a reason to get up each and every morning, something to look forward to. We all need a what's next. We'll see you next time.